Welcome everyone to Perfect Read. We are now on to episode 12. We had to skip out last week. I apologize ahead of that, and I apologize, not we, because it is mostly my fault. But it wasn't my fault. Listen, I don't know if you guys heard this story because I told it
Mostly.
on a stream. So, so my Go XLR died. For those who don't know, my
Yeah.
mixer and my preamp died. So my mic didn't work. It like literally died 3 hours before our normal scheduled time of recording. And I tried to fix it. It didn't work. And then I was like, okay, we're just going to have to cancel this because then my monitor died as well. And I was like, I don't know what's going on. Monitor eventually came back, which is why I did plat chat with my headset. It turns out, so I'm at the watch party yesterday, and my wife messages me and she goes, so did you know that our apartment intercom is dead? A lot of Korean apartment complexes have intercoms in every home so
Yeah.
you can open like the lobby and stuff. And I was like, no. And she's like, well, apparently the entire complex, every intercom died on July 28th because a crow flew into a power line and it shorted
Oof.
out the entire complex. Crazy, crazy. First of all, that or
Yeah, that is
July
crazy.
27th, July 27th.
Mm.
And I was like, huh, interesting. And then I looked at the date. Well, we normally record on Mondays. July 27th was a
Yeah.
Monday. And I'm thinking, there's no way this crow shorted out my going solar. But it must have, because there's no other
Yeah.
explanation.
So
Yeah.
is it
Yeah.
So
still is it still like gone now, or is that what you're
yeah,
using now and
well,
it's recovered?
no. So I like tried different third party power cables, etc. And nothing brought it back. But
Right.
Achilleos, courtesy of Achilleos, he had like a spare preamp, so I'm using it for now, and then I'll have to sort something out
Mm.
and get it back to him. But shout out to Achilleos, I guess, for saving the future of Perfect Read and my watch
Wow.
parties and basically everything else I do.
Friend of the pod.
Very good.
But yes, it was the crow's fault. So watch out for the
That's
crows.
that's crazy.
Yeah. That's not the
It's
beef you want to start. Crows are they're too smart for that.
yeah, you definitely don't want to start beefing
Well,
the crows.
not the one crow who took down your building, but
Mm.
Well, I mean, unless he had an agenda, then I don't know. Then he might have succeeded. Who knows?
Mm.
But anyway, so we had to skip out on last week. But in some ways, personally, I think it worked out because I feel like we have a much better picture of what's going on in VCT Pacific. I feel like up to last week, we were like, things are kind of looking good for this team, kind of looking bad for this team, but we don't have enough data. On some teams now we have some pretty good data. But before we talk about the teams, today I want to talk a little bit broader because there's been this narrative that Pacific is just fraudulent. It's just a fraudulent region. It's just weak. It's all just mud. It's all just scraps, and people are likening it to CN. I mean, I don't know how you want to feel about
oh, okay,
it.
Blasphemy.
that's a step too far. Look, I think this is the weakest Pacific has been in some time. Like the problem for me is I can't see who else is gonna do super well internationally outside of Paper Rex. But we're not
Okay.
CN bad. There's no way there. I also think general across the world, uh, a lot of teams are kind of struggling. The level isn't super high globally. It's hard to see super dominant teams anymore.
Hmm.
I would say. I mean, I think America's maybe a little bit less so, but I spend most of my time watching Pacific and then
Mm.
Europe in the evenings for me. So when I watch both of those two, I don't. I think it's just like the way the meta is. It leans into being a little bit messy. I think that's okay. But I do think Pacific in general are having a little bit of a struggle right now because the normal heavy hitters that we expect to be very dominant, that have normally like flown the flag internationally, are also not doing well. So
Hmm.
I think if those teams start losing, then it's always going to feel muddy because we have no idea who we're going to send. And we did this before London as well, and then
Yeah.
it was obviously GE Full Sense who went, but look how that turned out. So it is a little bit worrisome if we don't send people with experience. So I
Hmm.
want those teams who sort of should be good to figure it out. But I also think part of it is the format as well. I think I said this last time, where the format is the kindest it's ever been. Valorant normally has very,
Right.
very punishing schedules where you can lose what 3 games in a group stage and that's it, you're gone. But it's not like that. So I think we see a little bit more risk taking and just a little bit less impetus on getting everything perfect now. I think teams are looking slightly longer term and a little bit more towards play-ins. So I'm hoping it will shape up nicely. But I do think I need to see some other teams really start to like activate before I get
Mm.
excited about champs. Otherwise, I'm worried we get rolled again at champs.
No, even big times worried. That's how you know it is
Yeah,
actually bad. Like,
that's that's
Ah.
that's that's one of the key signs of recession.
I mean, I agree with you. I think that because the format is the kindest that it's ever been, a lot more teams are, I guess, taking it slightly more leisurely, a little bit more risk taking as well. So there's like both sides of the spectrum on that one. I also think that this is a period of time for Valorant right now that a lot of teams, like, we're kind of in a Valorant identity crisis, I feel like. When I'm just
mm,
looking at teams across the board, I'm looking at the different kind of comps that we're trying and the styles that we're trying, and we're picking weird unique comps, but also we're putting different players on different roles. It's like the ideology of a bunch of these different teams is going in such drastic directions that we haven't really seen before, and I think that is a casualty because of the call it safe format at the moment. But because you're putting yourself in that situation right now, are you going too deep down this rabbit hole? You're not going to be able to pull yourself back out of it come the play-ins time for a bunch of these teams, right? Because the teams that aren't taking a super amount of risks, for example, are not getting those top spots to skip to the playoffs, for example, they're going to have to go to the play-ins. So are they situating themselves in a worrisome position that could have these challenger teams coming up into these play-ins get the better of them? Because you got to remember, it's four challenger teams in every single league that is going into there, and we're not just seeing this in Pacific at the moment. We're seeing teams flourish in this current stage, like Nova from China, for example, getting a 5-0 and skipping in towards the playoffs, and we're seeing other teams drastically struggle. I mean, Fnatic for one, right? Like, it's what is Fnatic doing right now? You want to come over into Pacific specifically? What
Yo,
is
that's
KRX
that's
doing at the moment? What is Full Sense doing at the moment? It's like we are in such a, I, I, for me, a hurtful position. I feel like for the game.
mm. Yeah, Fnatic is we haven't really talked about the other regions too much, but Fnatic I think is probably the biggest alert, I guess, about the current state
mm,
of things. Just because they're one of those teams that was like always good enough, right? Like
Yeah.
you're like, yeah, but they'll like be fine. They might miss like one international barely, but they'll bounce back. They have the individuals and they
yeah.
have a good grasp of fundamentals and whatnot. And yeah, obviously they've had their slew of roster issues and roster changes and whatnot, sure, but I think that's kind of like the last domino chip to fall where everyone's like, okay, we got to accept some things have to change. Like
Yeah.
something has to change. Now, we talked about this a little bit in terms of Masters London with like a new generation coming up, etc. So how much of it do you think is just like well, first of all, I guess is Valorant now like it truly in its own identity, or do you think Valorant itself is still confused on what it wants to be?
I mean, I don't think what Valorant is ever static. I think that's sort of part of the joy of esports. If you want a game that's been the same for 10,000 years, play chess or Counter-Strike. Um, it's it's
Chess or Counter
Chess.
Strike? Yeah.
you know what I mean?
There's your
It's
two
like
options.
I feel like Valorant is always changing. It's always in a state of flux, and I think that's what's good about it. People always complain when it doesn't suit them. Um, So I think it's okay that it's constantly changing, but it does mean that the teams who have been at the top, or in Valorant hasn't been like this, will now fall out of it. Like it's so cyclical. This is why we hardly ever see repeat champions
Mm,
internationally, because the meta is constantly shifting. So I think in a way I'm surprised because in a more aggressive, fast-paced, put the body on the line meta, I would have thought Pacific would do well. I was like
right.
excited you know, post Santiago when this was all kind of settled basically, and we knew this is where we were going to be. I was like, okay, oh Vamos. I was like, this is a year. We're winning everything. Um, and then that's not meant to be. So it is a little bit worrisome for Pacific, but I think it's okay that Valorant is sort of changing. I think if Valorant ever settles on one idea, that's sort of a bigger problem. People like
Mm,
double initiator, and we were in that sort of era of Valorant for a long time. But if it stays like that forever, then the game gets boring, and you'll start to see the same teams winning and the same ideas. In my mind, Valorant isn't about perfection. That's never what it should be about. It's about adaptation, and that's what makes the great players great. The great teams great is you can do it on a cold, rainy night in Stoke, and you can do it on a sunny morning in Barcelona. You know what I mean? Like it should be different. It shouldn't be about perfecting one thing.
sure. Uh, then when it comes to the meta, how different has it been? I mean, because like on the surface, we're still seeing lots of double duelists, right? Heavy double duelists, still a lot of neon, and another flash, right? Like on the surface, it feels like it shouldn't be that different from the beginning of the year. But I think anyone who's like, even if you're not a hardcore fan, if you've been watching consistently, you probably notice things like, oh, it's not as op heavy. Like there are
Yeah.
ops are still important, but
Mm.
it's not as op heavy. It's not as outlaw heavy. Things like that. So, would you say that it's still notably different, or do you think it's just finally really settled into a place for the year, and people like weren't ready for it?
think I would argue it's got more interesting since stage two sort of started. Like I think at the very
Hmm.
start we were like, oh, it's Neon Phoenix. Everyone's gonna run Neon Phoenix on absolutely everything. And like
Yeah.
Mm.
there are some teams that are doing that. Like we see Secret play Neon Phoenix everywhere, and I think that's fine. I think that's one way to approach the meta. But then we're seeing deadlocks, we're seeing sages, we see more Viper, Vice every now and then. Like you even see like Teo come back. I think people are experimenting more because of because of the format and everything, and teams are sort of finding their way a little bit more now in a way that works for them instead of feeling like they have to. Because I promise you, if like the bottom two teams got eliminated from this, everyone would be playing Neon Phoenix because
Mm.
you sort of have to
Ah,
glue to the fastest solution to a problem. But
right.
now you don't
Yeah.
have to, so you're seeing a little bit more exploration of the meta. And I think for some teams that makes them look terrible, like full sense. And for some teams, it's they once they kind of find it, they start looking great. Like I
Hold
mean, I
on.
think Nongshim in that last game.
Yeah, I listen. We had Frost on the podcast as well. I'm not necessarily in the school of we should go ham on it, but like looks like they're terrible. They're pretty trash right now, big time. Like this,
He's
Yeah,
sugarcoating it,
there
mate.
is not there
Yeah.
is no excusing it. Like if it was like 1 to 2 weeks, that's fine. But yeah, they're looking pretty bad. But you guys mentioned obviously
Yeah.
like it's a case of are you firmly believing in like your theory versus comfort or what's working with other teams right now, etc. I mean, we'll
I
see what they
mean,
do. Yeah.
I don't know if we're prioritizing comfort if we want to talk about something for full sense in that regard of roles. I get the idea that, if you want to make Primi a great player, he should be playing on different agents. But you're in a position right now that Frost has talked about so often. Champs, champs, champs. You need all the points you can get. You're currently 1-3. Your next game is against the team that's going 4-0, that will maybe go 5-0 with how Genji are currently looking, with them moving their kind of roles around and their players around as well, which I think has been a really, really big thing. You want to talk about a team that has kind of found a good adaptation into the current meta. It is that Neon, it is that Phoenix, some Rays here and there. You've got someone like 100 Thieves who is substituting out the Neon for a Jet on Ascent specifically as well. We are getting a lot of strength at the moment from these teams running on this double duelist with a sprinkle of, double controller here and there and double sentinel here and there. Not so much of a double initiator, unless you count some teams running Breeze where they're running the two of them, and some little offshoots as well. But it is still predominantly a double duelist meta at the moment. It's just it's a different flavor of it compared to when the Yora was busted and the Neon was busted. They've just been toned down a little bit. Hence, the Phoenix has been pulled out from 6 ult points to 7 ult points now, but not in effect just yet, mind you, as well, right? We just saw the weekend go. Phoenix is still being played with 6 ulti points, so whether or not that's going to be a drastic change, I don't really think so. Come into when that comes into effect in the play-ins, I do believe is when it's going to be in effect, like the 2-week grace period or whatever it is. So we'll have to wait and see what that is going to be. But I think that I go across. I just got another monitor here. I go across all of the different regions for the teams that are sitting on the top, and you look at majority of their wins, and you can clearly see in all the different maps that they're playing, the same kind of things are sticking out, right? It is that double duelist style, maybe the sprinkle of the double controller and the double sentinel, not so much as the double initiator, but it's taking the fights together as a team with set strategies sprinkled into the mix, but a lot of adaptability. And, we talked about this macro idea a little bit earlier. There is a lot of micro step ups that we're seeing across the board for a lot of teams at the moment, with
Mm.
individuals being comfortable to take a lot more risky duels and and come out with some flashy things. So I think that there's a lot that has kind of been shoved into this current meta, not so much as, oh, we've all moved into these different agents.
Right. Now, this leads into a different thought I had. Now, and this is something that came from Someone mentioned this to me. I'm not
Mm.
going to say who, just just because it might, showcase what they're thinking.
Okay.
And I mean, people want to speculate. You can speculate. You're probably never going to guess anyway. But anyway, but I was, I was talking to someone and they were like, "Yeah, I mean, it actually is just all about like spams now, like smoke spams. You
Mm.
spam through corner, you spam through smokes. It's just you just and then you just go for the set play, and it's whoever just has more numbers, and then it's whoever has the spray, and it just feels like it's kind of just random, and you just have to win enough fights, right? Like that's what it comes down to. And obviously, this is very simplified. Like it's not like we were having like an actual full-on discussion. This was just in
Mm.
passing, but where do you think that lands? Because we talk about double duelists, but right, like a lot of the duelists we mention are ones who have some form of a smoke, right? Neon has a wall,
Yeah.
Phoenix has
Yeah.
a wall, Jet even obviously not as much, but like has a smoke. Obviously we're seeing like rays on select players and select maps, but I would actually say I'm kind of surprised at the lack of rays, but now that I'm seeing it, it
Uh,
makes sense. But
yeah. I mean, I guess something that comes to mind is a bit of an outlier in BBL when they're running the Yoru with a sprinkle of rays and the Waylay. So that's kind of
sure,
like against the current wall meta of the Neon and the Phoenixes. But 100% agree with you. Like you're seeing it's almost like a wall meta, so to speak, with the
mm,
Harbor, the Viper, and the Omen, the Neon, and the Phoenix, right? Like you smoke coverage, vision blocking, phantom aggression, spraying, good utility placement as well, sprinkled in the mix of them. I think that it's almost a cheesy way to start a round, so to speak, when you've just got this game that's predicated on walls dropping at the beginning of a round and you're having smokes and spams and aggressive, stints going up close through them or popping through them as well. When you've got teams happy enough to take a Phoenix, for example, curveball out of a smoke, definitely makes sense to start to pre-fire these, as often as possible as well to at least get a reset on them or get some chip damage in the first 3 seconds of a round. It's not the like smartest strategy, but currently it is something that is extremely viable. Just spray through the smoke, like it
I
it
think
it works.
I think it is the smartest strategy right now.
No,
Like
I'm
if it
sorry. It's not like the most, creative strategy, I should rather say.
yeah.
It is smart. Yeah.
Because well, the problem is you don't have a lot of util to respond with. Like back
Yeah.
in the old
mm,
days, if you were running double initiator, you'd have a KO who put the molly on the floor, and
Mm,
you'd like fight for the space. But if they put the wall up and are like ready with flashes, you can't really fight them back with util unless you like invest everything and you're going like this is the round, like Haven 8 lobby or whatever, and you go okay, we'll see if we win a round or not by set piecing them basically.
mm,
You have to spam. You have to spam because it's the only way to beat it. They wall up like the walls are a hard tell of where you're going almost all the time because you have to use what little util you have to in this meta. It's faking is kind of difficult. So
mm,
you have to
yeah.
spam to beat it. But I'm happy that we don't have the ping change. I think that was actually the most spammy meta when every post plant
Yeah.
was like do you remember the
right,
Heretics B main post plant
yeah,
on Sunset?
Ping
on
ping on the
Sunset.
on
Okay,
the
bro.
spray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's put a trip so that they can't come into B mains. Okay. Like I think that was arguably worse. It does feel bad though. I think what was the game? I'm trying to remember there was one game this weekend where I was like, oh, they're just losing on every spam. Like it felt like every single
Mm,
time. So I can't remember which game it was. I feel like I've seen so many maps of Valorant this weekend.
yeah,
But every time a team was like trying to move into an area, they were getting spammed and like losing two people. And it's like that sucks for that team. But also like smart spam is just rewarded right now. And unless they change the game, it's gonna be the way. But I think it's hard to change the game to stop this without
Mm,
big balance changes because I don't want to see them like nerf the Phantom again of like let's take another clip out or something like that
mm,
because
mm,
then how do you defend against this? It would make the problem worse if anything. Not the
right.
spam problem, but the sort of
The
staleness in
smokes.
the meta problem. So I think
Yeah.
it is part of it, but also I do think it is kind of a skill. There are players that you see will get these kills through the smokes all the time because they have really good game sense and they understand timing, and they practice the spams. They know angles. They know where to
mm.
shoot without having to ping it. And there's players who have never had to do this that then are like, the crosshair placement when they're looking at a wall is like so far off because they've never done it. So yeah, it is. I do definitely agree with unnamed person that it is a little bit spammy right now.
Yeah.
Mm. I'm glad you brought that up about like, well, some people are able to do it more consistently. So conclusively, do you think we're in too random of a state of Valorant? Because here's my take. My take is
Mm.
I totally respect. What's the best way to put this? I totally respect it when someone wants to argue that it should become less random, right? Or like there should be more tools, or whatever, like, or there should be other types of balance changes to prevent that. But I don't think it's random enough that it's like actually unfightable. You know what I mean? Like I think
Yeah.
it's not like you're playing a gotcha game and you're just going for a 10 pull with no pity and you have no idea what's going on. Like there are ways to manipulate this in my idea. Like for instance, like you said, like I mean, yeah, you might not like that gameplay, but maybe you should just be practicing like when I swing, do I have my crosshair on the wall like every time through a smoke? Like just put up a smoke,
Yeah.
ping through it, things like that.
Mm.
And it's like, look at like champs with Rock and the Odin. Everybody was hating on him, and it's
Mm,
like, oh, it's so spammy and it's so boring. It's okay, but you can't do it. He can, and that's why he's winning.
Mm.
So there's definitely a little bit of skill to it, and I think overall the game feels random, but I also think it's sort of a psychological effect in a way because the good teams are losing. So people go, wow, it must be random. Fnatic are 2-3. Wow, Gen G have started winning games. Hey RX, oh, you're so good, but you're
Triple lawless.
losing, so it must be random. And it's not like that. If teams can go flawless in group stages and teams can't get wins, it's
mm,
not entirely
I,
random. I think there's
I,
always a skill element that
yeah.
you can't take away. I think we're arguing about small percentages. Yes, it's more random than it's been in the past, but the better team's going to win the game, 99
Mm.
times out of 100. So I think it's sort of one of those things where it's people just love complaining, and they'll always
Yeah.
love complaining. And I've never met a pro player that doesn't love complaining. They all do it.
I mean, you wanna talk about randomness, and you want to talk about having like players with good crosshair placement and everything. Case in point, what we just saw in the last 24 hours, Fnatic getting 13 0'd by Team Heretics last night. If you didn't see that, and
mm.
Nongshim 13 0ing after just scraping by on that Breeze overtime. I honestly thought that 1v4 on the B side from Eco, I think it was, or XDL, one of the two, in that overtime, that was so close to be able to get that one
Oh,
across the line. But
XDL.
like
XDL, yeah.
XDL, yeah, yeah. But you got to like crosshair placement. You have a Absol. I have we ever seen the highest high drop to the lowest low in that way?
No,
From
not this
35
much.
kills in map 1 to 1 in map 3. I mean, you want to talk about randomness, you want to talk about bouncing back, you want to talk about like showing mental fortitude and adapting where you need to. Look at how Nongshim played Haven compared to how they were playing, honestly, majority of attacking side Breeze and then Sunset as well, right? It's and that's just a small subset. I think the randomness affair where we are at for Valorant at the moment is a contributing factor. It will favor teams, it will hurt other teams, but as Morgan always like to say, you have to play with kind of what you're dealt with at the moment, right? Everybody is on the same playing field. You have to try and get every single win, every single thing that you can. Some teams will, some teams won't. I think it's going to make for a very interesting champs. Let's put it that way. But we won't know until we see it.
Mm. Side note about the Haven. So I,
Yeah.
I met up with the players and the coaches, of course, after the win. We were just chatting, and Coach Yo Man walks into the room, and I was like, Yo Man, you freaking showing up for the skirmish again today? And he's like, Yeah, and he's like, I mean, in a way, I won the skirmish, and therefore we were able to lead it into Haven on map 3. So we kind of won because of me. And I was like, okay, buddy, like that was the third map too.
Respect.
It's not like it was the first map.
Yeah.
Respect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was very happy with that, being able to get that last pick in the draft. But
Mm.
yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point. There's ways to. I guess it also is you can cherry pick stats. I think given the number of examples
Yeah.
we have in VCT of like proving both sides. But if you look at overall things, I mean, I think PaperX is the greatest example against that grain of like they might not be the most trophy winning team, but they are like giga consistently a
Yeah.
contender,
100%.
right? And it's like, okay, and they used to consistently not play the meta back in the day, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
well, if you're good enough, you're good enough, right?
It kind
And
of
if you realize,
still aren't, To be fair,
I mean,
right
even
now,
now,
I mean,
it's not
it doesn't
really
matter.
fair.
Like they're
well,
already
yeah,
made
this
champs,
stage 2, I
but
can't even tell what they want to play. So like, we'll
they
have to
just
wait
want to
and
play
see.
for fun. Let's put
I
it
mean,
that way. Like
I
it's
will.
them.
I will say, I mentioned this. I wanted to get your takes on it. This is a little bit of a sidetrack, but I was looking at it, and you know how they was it the shoot? It was the summit, right? Where he
Summit with
played
the
the
gecko.
gecko, and then
Yeah,
they did
correct.
like all
Yeah.
the weird role swaps.
The roll, yeah,
Uh,
roll swap.
and I
Yeah.
was looking at that, and I was like, yeah, you can be doing this for fun, and even if it's not like fully calculated, I personally think there's immense value in playing a teammate's role, especially in an official,
100%.
because yeah, just like knowing if someone calls for something, like even if you're laughing it off of like, oh, like that's how that works. Like
That's how
if
it
you
works.
call for
Yeah.
this, like I'm like in smoke mode or whatever in my agent,
Mm.
and I'm just thinking, dude, I don't know if we've seen a team, whether intentionally or not, actually utilize their advantage of being already qualified this well, in my
Mm.
Yeah,
opinion.
I mean, I think
We
the best example of the role swaps that I ever saw was Nongshim, where it was the EWC qualifiers
Yes.
last year,
Yeah.
where they put Danby on Breach and Francis on
Yeah.
Neon, and it was like you could just tell. You
Jeez.
could just tell how that went internally. Of Danby was like, "You got a stun for me here," and he's like, "I can't, bro." And he's like, "Fine, you play it. You'll see." And respect. But I do think Paper Rex, for the most part, are doing a good job of testing things. I think that summit was a little bit troll. It was mostly about getting
Yeah.
Forsaken the Pokedex. I did want them to lose. If you're gonna start throwing stuff out like that, I want you to lose always. Um, but they didn't.
Uh,
Honestly, they pretty much should have. If something wasn't unbelievable, they lose that
it's
map.
something though. Like we've seen this before. It doesn't matter what agent you'll put it on. He can have like the
There-
first occurrence of the agent, and it'll be absolutely atrocious. Brimstone Fracture, for example. And then he comes back and he's like, "Oh, I understand it now. We're good."
Yeah.
And he'll
Because I
just shoot you.
remember they also did this to me in 2023 when I was there with Global, and they picked Icebox into the series against us when Icebox was going out the pool, and they put
Oh
CGRS in,
yeah.
and then we bodied them, and I was like, I was like, what are you doing? And then I mean they smashed us the rest of the series, but forget about that. Like,
Yeah, I remember
you want to
that.
try stuff on troll? I hope you lose. But I do think for the most part they're doing a good job of preparing well. They had that one loss against
T1.
T1, yeah,
Yeah, right
right
when
at
they
the
got back.
start.
Yeah.
So I
I
think it's easy
mean,
to chalk that up to schedule and first game back. But I think they're doing fine. Paper X is like the only team I'm not worried about. We know that they're in champs, and I know that internationally people find them hard to play against.
Mm.
So they can be saving stuff the whole time. And like also, they got Anders on staff now as well.
Yeah.
It's another big brain for them. So their
Yeah.
summit is doing
yeah, it
well
was
and
his
not
summit, wasn't
surprising.
it? Yeah. Was
Yeah.
it?
He
Wait,
said
was it
he
summit
said
or
him and well, he said him and
breeze?
Wendler were focusing on Summit.
It was summit.
Yeah.
Didn't expand on it any further for obvious reasons,
Yeah.
but yeah, the Summit. I'm sure they're talking about other things too, but it seems like the typical case of new map is out. Who gets to pick up Anders to break down the new
Yeah.
map for you? And then here they are. It's Paper X this year around. We'll see how that works long term. But yeah, I think I just wanted to bring that up because like there is a trolling aspect, there is a fun aspect, but I also just think they're doing
is
it
useful.
just within the threshold of like, oh wow, but imagine the value they get out of this versus other teams who are like scrambling to figure out comfort versus meta, like whatever, picking up a new player and things like that.
Yeah.
You mentioned Absol earlier, but perhaps not in the best light because of the insane roller coaster he had in the last match, but overall. Japanese Valor. It was almost actually Japan weekend until
Almost.
Zeta
And
got
they were
13-0.
1 round away. They were 1 round away
I
from
mean, in a way, they were one round
this
away.
being
You're
very
right.
different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Japan, it's crazy. Paper Thin having the weekend of his life. I
Dude.
hate him for it. It's tanked my predictions because I can never pick the Japanese teams and then they all start winning out of nowhere. I think DFM, I was super impressed by them.
Yeah.
Because it's not May anymore. May is like fine,
Hmm.
but he's not like hard carrying. It's everyone else who I feel like is really stepping up on that team. So Akame
Mm.
is apparently the greatest Korean initiated player of all time. I think. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know where that's come from. Absolutely baffled me how good he is.
Cess as well.
Yeah.
He was making some really good decisions
Se-
actually in how he was navigating around the maps to actually like get the multi-frags too.
Se-
It was really
bro,
well done.
Cess was Turkish this weekend. That's what happened. He just started swinging.
He did.
Yeah, he had a kebab on Friday. I know it, bro. He was sending it. I've never seen Cess re-peak like that in all my life.
Yeah.
But then I
Yeah.
also think it's an interesting counterpoint. Uh, I think Cess and like Akame, these players who we don't expect a lot from, started really stepping up. And I think part of that is understanding that you should be aggressive in this meta. And I
Mhm.
think both the Japanese teams sort of figured it out. Zeta play a lot slower. They're pretty controlled in how they do it, but they know how to play it well. They really do work the map, and I think Full Sense struggled against that. On the flip side, this is sort of a personal vendetta because I had him in my build diff team in the competition that we do, and it's Bane, and he's playing the
Mm.
game too properly. I was watching
Mm.
him and I was like, oh,
Mm.
in many ways you're like a coach's dream of like he's getting info and he's like falling away and he's seizing and then he's like running away and he's not swinging. And that's what KRX like. I didn't feel like they were doing that. They haven't captured the magic of the patch in the same way like DFM and Zeta have. So
Mm.
Yeah.
full credit to them because I feel like they've been able to try things. They experimented. I think they both still do it very differently, but they're both getting wins on the board. And I think it's great for the game if Japan start winning. It's huge for Valorant as an ecosystem if
Yeah.
Japan becomes good. So I think everyone wants to see them win.
Honestly, I was thinking about this over this weekend, and I was like, this is perhaps the best timing and thing that could have happened with the format changes next year. And like Japan would have been fine. Like they still celebrate, their tier 2 very powerfully. Like we'll talk about the play-in teams a little bit later on in this episode, but even that finals was like crazy. Like the fans are showing up. But like if you end on even if let's say you don't make it a champs, but you're like, oh man, we were getting there, and then you go into okay, now we have our own league back, and we get to send these guys to Pacific, the tournaments. It's like that scene is gonna pop off next year, I think. So I'm very happy
Yeah.
for them. I like that you mentioned that because I think in a way I think I noticed it first with Zeta at the beginning of the stage of like, oh, they've decided they want to lean into what they're good at instead of playing proper Valorant. But their execution was a little off. They weren't comfortable with the comps, perhaps. And then DFM shows up this weekend. And honestly, in the Varel match, I mean, partially I was kind of rooting for Varel just because these guys have just been the happiest people on earth on stage.
They're my
But
favorite team.
yeah, like they're so fun to watch. But also, I just feel like that match kind of ended in a very scrappy manner of like, okay, these are just two teams that want to fight it out. But then against T1, it just looks like DFM understood things generally better in terms of how to play the current meta. So I'm very curious to see how they go because like Omega's still just all up in the air, right? Like I think they can still make it to
It's
playoffs.
It's
it's
only these
insane.
secret are confirmed play-ins. I think
And
KRX are
KRX.
confirmed play-ins now
Yeah.
as well. Actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's no one knows who lands fifth, sixth, which is a huge difference. I
So
think that's all. That's massive.
yeah,
Being
that's
third and fourth
something
compared to fifth and sixth is crazy.
that like we've got RRQ, Full Sense, Team Secret, and KRX that are all currently 1-3. So these games this
Yeah.
weekend, like there's still a bit of an effect where T1 in Omega, T1 and DFM are 2-2, Zeta Division and Global Esports and Nongshim are 2-2. So there's
Yeah.
gonna be like a lot of different scenarios this weekend, which we get to step through because we've got Genji Full Sense and then Team Secret DFM, and that'll change things up. And then the next day and the next day. So like this weekend is going to be extremely important, not just for the teams to maybe start in the upper round 2 of the brackets for the play-ins, but not go against the challengers teams that are absolutely licking their lips from the problems that they'll be seeing
Mm.
at the moment from a lot of these tier 1 teams. They have had so much time to be able to practice, boot camp, watch, review, fix their own stuff, learn from the mistakes that the tier 1 teams are making as well. I mean, we just saw what the M80 guys are in Korea doing a boot camp, for
Yeah.
example, for over in the Americas. I don't know exactly what the Pacific 4 teams are doing at the moment, but it is a very um, it is a very good position for the challengers teams at the moment if they are seeing these problems in tier 1,
Yeah.
or if
I
everyone's seeing them really.
I think by you mentioning that, I just realized I think Alpha is fairly straightforward, and it's really about that second seed, which basically comes
Genji are
all the way
already
down to the
first,
last
confirmed.
day. Yeah. Gen G is already first
Yeah.
for sure. But I just meant the fifth, sixth seed. I just
Mm.
realized like in Omega there is a world where T1 still ends up like fifth, sixth as well, or at least fifth, depending on
Yeah.
tiebreaker if they lose to KRX. So like
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's
Like
crazy. That's
the
crazy.
secret DFM game, the winner of that is like third, fourth. The loser of that is fifth, sixth. I'm
Right.
pretty
Right.
sure that's like a massive game as well. I
Yeah,
think
yeah, because they would have the
there's a
tiebreaker
bunch of
against
them
each.
like
Yeah,
that.
kind of same thing with KRX
Yeah.
T1, and then
Yeah.
depending on those, like one of Vero Paper X might even get pushed down, and yeah, that's crazy. That is crazy. Yeah. So overall, obviously, Japanese Valorant did very well. Now, Vero, not a. I mean, I think they're a Japanese team with a Korean roster. You can argue that they're a Korean team with a Japanese org, but their money's
Yeah.
being flown out from Japan. So like they're getting paid. Listen, a Korean
They're
org didn't
they're
pick them
paid
up.
in yen, buddy.
They're paying in yen. Listen, no one wanted to pay them in wons. Someone wanted to pay them in yen. So
I mean,
in my
grown
book,
grown in Korea though, with the Japanese,
yeah,
put
I
on
mean, this
is
obviously
yeah.
all the coaches and the players are all Korean, but hey, but they had their watch parties out in Japan too. They seem to be
They pop
leaning
off.
into building the fan base
Yeah.
with the Elephant Man, and they've been doing well. Now they lost to DFM, which I mean, one could argue maybe even still better for Japanese Valorant overall, but Varel still just looking really, really good. Where do you guys stand on Varel now? Like this is no longer a fluke. They're kind of
Oh,
on a
they're
run.
so legit. Send them to champs. I love these kids.
Champs.
Send them. That's the outside of Paper Rex. I don't like any of the teams in Pacific right now. I feel like I'm worried about everyone. So
What?
let's give the five of them the time of their life in Shanghai. That's what I want to see. Run it down at some people because people struggle with aggression internationally. I think Viral have I think they're one of the prime examples where they found what works for them. Bringing Foxy9 into the team was an insane boost for them. Foxy9 might be the greatest player of all time. He's my goat. He's looked fantastic since he came back. The whole team is just on the next level. And the thing that I love about them, and like I love the fan base that are behind Varel. I don't
Hmm.
know if you've seen a Varel game from the arena, but
Yeah,
we
yeah, yeah.
have you been there at the same time? Like those are the best fans we have
Dude,
in Pacific, hands
Yeah.
down.
Mm.
No one comes close to them. I feel like all the other orgs, even like the T1s, yeah, they have a lot of people fill the seats, but it's not the same.
yeah.
There's no passion there. There's a 1, 2, 3 T1 fighting, and then they shut up the rest of the map. The Varel fans, I wouldn't be surprised if they set a flare off in the arena. They're
Yeah.
screaming. They're having the
It,
best time.
it was because I was just there on the Sunday match because it was the same day as the
Yeah.
Nungshan
Oh,
match,
yeah.
and I could have sworn I've been there before during a Rail game, but I realized like if they ever felt the momentum was getting out of hand, they like just start screaming at the beginning of the next round, and I'm like,
It's
what? And then
nuts.
the other
Yeah.
team is like,
They get
oh, we
frazzled.
can't lose, and suddenly the
Yeah.
KRX fans just get riled up in the momentum, and they start
Yeah.
screaming, and I'm like, this is great, like this is what we want, like
It
this
made
is
an actual
sports.
atmosphere.
Yeah.
It's fantastic, and I think the players love that as well. I think the players suit that fan base so well. Like
Mm.
every time I've spoken to any of them, like we interviewed Klaus and stuff, he was just having the best time in the interview. He was giving us fantastic answers. Spoke to TK9 the other day, and I was
Yeah.
telling him, I was like, bro, I love you guys. I was like, I think you guys are the best team ever. And he was just laughing. He was having a great time. They've all just embodied this idea that they're playing a video game and it should be
Yeah.
fun. And
And it's
every win is so monumental to them. But then even to get
yeah.
more like analytical, like I love them for who they are outside of the server. But inside the server, I feel like they're finally hitting the form that we saw in Ascension of last year in terms of individually, like with the skill that they're able to have,
Hmm.
and then as well as just like finding a way for these comps to work for them. And it's
Mm.
weird, we saw Klaus play all three maps. I don't know if that's something we're going to see moving forward. I hope it is. I think that's the best version of them. But Klaus on the Omen looks fantastic now. I think Zexi's sort of doing his job on the duelist, but it's not even him
Mhm.
that has to shine. Like the support players on that roster are fantastic, and I think they're so good at stopping double duelist. If you play double duelist into barrel, I feel like you'll just lose because they're, it's like they came up in double duelist. Their
Yeah.
prime time was double
Mm.
duelist. It's not like you're playing against Boaster who's lived through 1,000 metas. It's like I don't know. I just feel like they've cracked it,
Mm.
and
So
I genuinely want to see them in playoffs for sure. And if they
mm.
make it to champs, I'm flying out there in a Varel jersey.
There's a couple of things for me about Varel as well, and I'll start with back to Ascension. They played Ascension because I got to be able to cast that and cast their game as well. They played Ascension the way they needed to play Ascension. they didn't have a crowd like they do right now, but they were doing the same reactions that we see for them right now. Back
Mm-hmm.
then, they would rile themselves up. They knew that they needed to do that. They don't just play the element of Valorant. They play the element of like the atmosphere as well when they need to G each other up, to cause confusion and doubt in their opponents as well. And we're starting to see that elevate a little bit even more now that Foxy9 is coming through, and they've got a little bit more of an identity behind them in how they want to navigate these rounds, these maps, this rotating six, if it's going to still rotate. Definitely agree with you with the way that we see that game against KRX look, more comfortable for Klaus on the role shifts, and for the team collectively as a whole. We'll have to see if they do still stick with the specifics of like AGL duelist in a map here or there, or whether or not there's a little bit more calling coming outside of LP, from Foxy or something like that. Because I don't know if that's the case. Personally, it might have been spoken about, it might not have been spoken about. I would love to have an interview question to them to see if Foxy9 coming into this roster changes any of the ideas specifically around the mid rounding and the late rounding as well. But
I can shed a little bit of light on that,
okay,
just
yeah.
because in some of the listen-ins,
Mm.
like even if
I don't
Foxy9's
speak Korean.
dead, yeah, even if Foxy9's dead, he's like, by the way, remember this, do this, you guys should do this. Don't forget to do this. So like he's very much, I think, that core part of the mid rounding. He might not be calling the actual strat, but he'll be saying things like, remember the guy on the flank, just
Right.
make sure you smoke this angle, like things like that. So he's kind of making sure that they cover all their bases. So it seems like he's very much a core part of it. I presume, the main decision making, like pre-barrier stuff, is probably still LP, and then whoever else, I'm sure they have a little bit more of that kind of hive man mentality as well, just given how they play. But Foxy Knight's definitely a very vocal part, because like I think one of the listen-ins we had this weekend, or maybe it was last week, was just like straight just Foxy Nine like rattling through the checklist of like, you guys should do this,
Yeah.
this, and I was like, damn, like this guy is
That's
on
so
top of
crazy.
things.
Like
It's
Foxy9 was sort of famously like a dumb player back in the day.
Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
spoken about, like, it's so funny because everyone was like, who is this childish kid who can't remember any of the strats? And they're like, yeah, he can shoot his gun, but he's sort of terrible at everything else. And like you see him get bounced around and kicked from all these Korean teams, and it looks like his career should be over. And I feel like he's like found his people. It's like a
Yeah,
a
legit.
found family novel. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
he's finally arrived at where he should be amongst all these Zoomers, but he's the old one now. It sort of forced him to learn and take this responsibility.
Mm.
And he said it himself. He had to reflect a lot on the time he spent in all those other teams where he realized, yeah, I was a bit annoying and I wasn't exactly trying my best and I wasn't learning all this stuff. And now I see why it would be frustrating because now I'm on the other
Mm.
side of it. He's matured and he's turning into an absolutely like phenomenally well-rounded player.
Mm.
Yeah.
But by the way, just as a side note as well, the Varel versus Paper X game is the first time that they'll have played each other. But also, it's for the first seed, which gets you that advantage in the playoffs. And you're not like, you're potentially not even the second seed if you lose this
Yeah.
game, by the way, because you can drop like right
Yeah.
down. If like DFM T1, right, 3-2, you got
Yeah.
a head-to-head scenario.
Tiebreakers. Yeah.
It's a very important game. So we know that Paper Rex will probably realize, maybe we do need to switch up a little bit for this series. Varel are going to go full charge in towards this one as well, with a point to prove,
Yeah.
getting the
I-
top of this one, getting that advantage into playoffs. It'll be
I
massive.
think Paper Rex should throw this one. I think they should.
Just-
The boys are solid. They don't need it. It's all
Ruin the
good.
other teams.
Hey,
If Farrell win, they're 2 wins away from champs. If they win
listen,
this next game.
all I'm gonna say is when there came into my chat during the Varel KRX game, and he just said, I hope Varel loses because that creates a high potential of a 4-way tie if they beat us next week, and I want to see the chaos. So like he's all for chaos. So like there's a
You
chance.
picked the right team.
There's a chance.
Yeah.
But they're looking so good, and
Yeah.
I am very curious because I'm with you that like at the end of the day, Paper X, like they might have a little bit of fun with one map, but they will lock in for this last match of
Yeah.
the groups, and it'll be a great test for Varel to see how much the momentum keeps going. But the vibes are crazy. I mean, I talked about it in the watch party, but like I ran into LP and Cinder in the elevator right before their match. And I was like, oh, so like, how you guys feeling today? How are the vibes? And LP just like looks at me and then immediately goes, they're great. And I was like, oh, they're great. And he's like,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
no, they're great. And I was like, oh, so like, yeah, I can like expect some stuff today. He's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, these guys are confident.
And
It's
remember,
fun.
that was a super week for Varel as well, right? That
Yeah,
like they
yeah, and
just
they had
came off
just
the back of the
lost.
super week and they had
Yeah,
just lost. So the fact that that
yeah,
bounce back happens, they get the KRX victory. Now
it's
they,
great.
there's no super week for the final week 5. Everyone has the
Yes.
full week of practice. So
Yeah, good for
yeah.
them. Very, very happy for them. Obviously, we had plenty of other matches, but I think right now what I want to talk about is we want to kind of talk about the play-ins because right afterwards we're going to be jumping right into play-ins,
Yeah.
and we want to make sure that even our viewers and listeners have at least a little bit of a hint at least of what to expect because I think people have started to hear the rumblings. Like all 4 teams that have qualified all have some reason to be hyped for, right? Whether it's star players, whether it's just a long-standing veterans that kind of or star players, things like that. But for those who aren't aware, the 4 teams we have are going to be QT Dig from Japan. You have Onside Gaming from Korea, and then from the SEA and Pacific Last Chance, which kind of were combined, but basically you had SEA, and then you had like the Pacific with including the wild cards. It's Sharper Esports and Zipto, both coincidentally being Thai rosters. So we have 2 Thai rosters, 1 Korean, and then 1 Japanese roster, but with a couple Korean players on it. Right off the bat, are you particularly excited for any single team here? Komodo, I feel like you're probably the most familiar with these teams, so
Yeah, I mean, I covered the SEA challenges for both 555 before they were Zipdo. So if anyone looks in towards their
yes.
games, just recognize that if you check currently for the websites out there that have the matches, Zipdo, that's the old roster that you'll probably see. It hasn't migrated. Go check 555. You'll be familiar with a couple of the players on from this as well, like Surf, for example, and Alert for that degree as well for a little bit. Enderwist is a name that you'll want to get very, very familiar with coming in towards this one. He is massively mechanically gifted. He is also a smart duelist player, and I say that specifically because the way that he is able to like recognize the timing that he needs to go aggressive, recognize the timing that he needs to do rotations and more with the team as well, and play the inserts, play the little later plays. He is a phenomenal player that is rising up, and it's not just the duelist, by the way. He has a pretty neat sage as well, if I might say so. The roster for 555 is one that you should definitely look at. It's the team that I thought was going to win SCA challenges. They ended
Really?
up not winning. Sharper Esports ended up besting them, but the final was the best of 5, all 5 maps, with both of the final 2 maps ending 13-11. It was a ridiculously close best of 5 final, and I am glad that, because 555 did lose in that one, that they still managed to win the LCQ, because those 2 teams were probably 2 of the most deserving for the longest time. Now, I will add myself an asterisk on this. They weren't the team that I had thought would win at the beginning of the year because there's bias for Motive and situations happened and
Sure.
Motive got like disbanded. So sad days. But 5-5 and Sharper, it's going to be really, really cool to witness what damage that they can do.
Were you predicting them to win partly for the hype, or did you actually think right before the grand finals that they looked better than Sharper?
Better than Sharper. I think the game that they
Mm.
played against Fancy United where they lost is just Fancy United shenanigans. They Fancy United
Now that's a
play
team that would have been fun to
like
play.
That
that
But
would be
no,
really fun.
I
For,
missed them, man.
for those that don't know, Fancy United are a team from Vietnam. They do not play the same comps that you normally see. They are the full sense. They play whatever hell comp that they want to geniusly identify and make unique for themselves, and they just play a different brand of Valorant, and it's always entertaining. It catches you off guard if you're not expecting it, but in terms of consistency and in terms of highest ceiling, because I put a lot of value and weight on teams that have, really good fundamentals, really good ideas, but have a really good high ceiling that they can step and learn in towards given just tenure in the game. 555 are a team that fits that for me. And to be fair, Sharper were a team that I was always like on the kind of you know thought process that they can get there. And I think when you
Mm.
look towards the start of this year, the changes that they make into this roster, Apinya is on that roster as well. PTC, for those that are familiar with him, finally getting
old
his
school.
chance in tier 1.
Yeah.
The Thai Laz, not the Japanese Laz as well. Like this roster does have a lot of Sharpies in it. And remember, Apinya was the he played for Full Sense previously as
Right.
well,
So
like
this is
and,
like
and
the
stuff. So
two or 2 or 3 players that was the old Full Sense.
The old Full Sense
Yeah,
roster.
and then
yeah.
Full Sense, sent them off, picked up current
up the
or old
talent,
current
yeah.
Full Sense. And so this was where Sephiroth was, right? This is the roster at the
Yes.
beginning of the year.
Yes,
Obviously,
he
long time ago.
April is when
But
he
there's like
moved
there's like
over.
a so but we know Full Sense are starting 5th, 6th, so there's a real chance that Sephiroth
There
is
They
going
can
to
play each other.
and there's
Yeah,
a 50% chance
yeah.
it's going to be full tie versus full tie, 10 ties on the server.
Well, fifth and
Right.
challengers teams all start in the upper bracket round 1, and then Omega
Yeah.
6, Alpha 5, Alpha 6, Omega 5. Do we know exactly? Is it random who goes against each other for that? It has to be, right? There's no.
I assume.
It's a draw, I think. EMEA did a draw. So
They
I'm
just
gonna
draw.
Oh, yeah, they
okay,
did, yeah.
right? Yeah, because they're earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll have the balls again.
Yeah.
So we'll have
But
the Pacific balls.
The
I
rigged
think-
balls.
Yeah. Yeah, once it was freezing cold. Condensation dripping off it. Crazy. But I think
The groups
I think
always
both
rigged.
the Thai
The
teams-
groups are. The group.
Condensation. I'm just imagining the camera zooms in and you're just seeing a dripping ball. That's oh my god.
Oh, that would be funny.
Anyway,
That's
Side
what-
note, remember when like this was the freest group that we were thinking about like at the beginning here for T1 and Paper X? Or the beginning of the stage?
listen, it's still relatively free for Paper X.
Whoever said that was
yeah.
a moron. I've always disagreed with
Oh,
that.
I said
Omega is
that.
a way
I
better
said
group
that.
than-
I
than
said
Alpha.
that because
You're a
I
moron.
thought
There's
T1
no
was
way.
no. Hold on. No, because T1 shouldn't have been this bad. They're pretty bad right now.
Yeah.
But they should not have been this bad.
I mean, sure, but it's hard to put much stock in it. I think, yeah,
They
I don't know. I always thought Omega was harder.
that
in my
series
mind.
against DFM, like the maps that they lost in the 13-5s, they did not look like they had a coordination between their keyboard hand and their mouse hand with the team.
Yeah, no,
was
they were.
awful.
I mean, yeah, we'll see. We'll see in what light we'll have to talk to them because it would be the most T1 thing to somehow sneak in because they beat Paper X in week 1 and take over the
Yeah.
second seed in some sort of tiebreaker. It would be the most T1 thing.
Yeah,
but
true.
but going back to the play-in, so most likely random draw. So yeah, it's like a 50% chance that Full Sense has to play one of the tie rosters, which is like that would be. I mean, that's like do or die time for them. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we talk about the
Frost
other ones
versus
as well,
Surf?
I think the Duty Dig as the Japanese team is a little disappointing. That's the only one where I'm like, I wish it
Okay,
had gone the other
okay.
way. I wish it was Reject. I think the stories
Really?
are so there with Reject. Depp is in there. Is it Margaret or Persia? Because they run
No,
opposite sides
Persia's
of
the one
of
on
the
Reject.
final.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Margaret's
Persia's
on
there on
QT.
Reject. I think they were. I think Reject were the scarier team. They were sort of the favorites. QT Dig, obviously, if you win the final, no one can argue against you.
Sure.
I mean, 13-11 for map 5, by the way, right? It was
Did a
11-11.
great job there.
Yeah.
But
Oh, we're losing
I
big time.
worry. We're losing big time.
We're losing big time.
Dion went flying for me. I'm still here.
No,
Well,
we lost,
I mean-
we lost you.
Oh yeah, no, you're here now. You're
I'm
here
back.
now.
Okay.
We had
good,
Robo
yeah.
big time for a little bit.
I just I worry more that they're lacking a little bit in top level experience to be able to kind of make that convert.
Hmm.
And historically, it's not been a strong region. Yes, the Japanese teams had a great week. It's 1 week though. We have to keep it calm. And I think the amount of times I've heard people go, "This guy's farming the Japanese league. Oh my god, he's insane in the Japanese league. Just you wait till he comes to." Like, didn't Flicker do exactly this? Went to play in Japan and was like unbelievable.
Well,
and
I
has
don't think
then
Flicker was
bounced
that
back.
hyped.
Yeah.
He,
I mean,
he
you gotta,
was, like,
you gotta
doing
remember as well,
fine.
like, Depp, you're talking about
Doing
Depp as well,
fine.
but you gotta remember Yuran has, like, his redemption now as well after not doing too much with Zeta Division back when on that roster with Depp. So, like, there was lots of stories about ex-teammates playing in that best of 5.
You know who was farming? Oh, we've lost big
We've
time.
lost big time.
100%. Well,
Yeah.
while he's sitting it out, you know who did go again? Complete sidetrack. You know who did go to the Japanese league for a little bit and farmed was Lakia. Lakia went to the Japanese league and giga farmed.
He's gone again.
Yeah, well, he's gone again. But all right. You're like
I feel like I'm trapped in a box.
you are.
You are.
Yeah, it feels like you're trapped in a
Why
box.
is this happening? I'm trying to flame lack here. My internet won't let me.
Dude, Lakia's running into your power cables. He's throwing
running.
things at
Lakia's
he's
running
throwing
into the jail
crows
cell.
at your power cables. He's just ruining your internet.
Uh, but I mean,
Your
all
room really
in
does
all,
look like a prison.
It is a little bit prisony, but yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, I always just worry that people go to Japan and they do great, and then it doesn't translate. So I think they can still do damage, and I think with prep time they should still do damage. I think all of these teams are at least good for one based on prep time alone, but I would argue they're the nicest draw. If you're coming fifth, sixth, I think that's the team you want to get.
You know what? Like, listen, I'm hyped for this team because I think the stories here are also just as good. Like you mentioned Uran earlier, right? Kind of redemption from Zeta Division. You've got Margaret, obviously redemption from Nongshim. You've got PKM, who used to be old Nongshim, lost to SPG, then couldn't really find his footing, played on like Team IAM, and then eventually went to Team 1 Academy. Now is back at a shot here. Messiah used to be teammates with something all the way back.
Sengoku,
Was it Sengoku?
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sengoku. So like, there's definitely good stories here, and obviously I'm partial to Margaret PKM just because I followed
Ooh,
them from their tier
Wasn't
2
Kipe
level.
as well on Sengoku
Was it
with them?
was Kipe also Sengoku? I'm not
Yeah,
quite sure.
yeah.
because I know Messiah was like highlighted as being a teammate, but
Maybe they weren't
it's both of
teammates
them.
at the time.
Yeah, I think it might have been maybe right during that swap. I think he joined Sengoku after, perhaps.
Right.
But I can see what you mean because one could argue that this was also the final where like it was QT Dig peaking to win against Reject
Yep.
rather than like, oh, it's 50-50, anyone could take it, and they were both good, and it just kind of leaned that way. This was like QT Dig really clutched it up to, I mean, it was hype, and again, not to say that they got lucky, but they like hit their peak, like individually as a team and whatnot, and so it could be that. Yeah, no, I can see. I mean, just looking at the roster, you would probably also agree, right? Like Persia. I mean, Yoshi's always been good for consistency in tier 2. Depp, of course, used to farm tier 1 as well. So unfortunately, we won't see them. It will be QT Dig, but I can see that. Where do you guys sit with onside gaming?
I have a pet peeve.
Uh-oh.
Sorry, this is a side note of just the Korean Valorant system. With it is great that there are so many. I think my voice is going again. By the way, I'm sick.
Oh no.
I think it's great that we have so many academy teams, but I think it is a problem for the fact that they take so many of the slots that cannot get in towards this event that it made for quite a flat kind of ending path, I think, throughout the playoffs. That grand final, like, I feel like we should have just ran it back against a different, like, team on a different day because I'm bringing it back up. It was a red A, right?
Yeah, it was a
RFA.
red. Yeah, a red
right.
gaming. They did beat onside before though in the upper bracket finals, like right before that of the like qualifying tournament, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the story about onside for me is the story of Siesta. We spoke to
Sure.
Dongjin about this on our desk, who's one of the Korean casters. We actually pranked him to get him to speak English. It was quite funny. I would recommend watching that.
His English is pretty good.
His English is great, but he was demanding a translator for the interview, so we just told Jen to wait outside and not come in. But he was saying that he felt like the team is much more balanced than people give it credit for, that he kind of felt like everyone can hold their own there. But I don't know how much of that is Korean PR. I feel like when I've seen this team, Ziesta is the guy. For those of you who don't know, he was signed to Genji from like when he was 16.
In February,
He's like,
right?
he's hailed as the Wunderkind, and he's been loaned out to onside for
Yeah.
this, and he can play the Pacific for this despite being younger.
Yeah, so he was signed last year when he was 14. To
14?
Genji Academy, yes, and he was on a 4-year contract to make sure he could eventually play for the Genji main team. It was funny because I remember it was last year, I think, when I was covering, or maybe it was even the year before, but I was covering, it was the year before when I was covering Challengers Korea a lot. And then someone in chat, one of the Korean viewers in chat was like, well, the one to really look out for in Genji is the guy in their 3rd string academy team. And I was like, what do you mean a 3rd string
third
academy team? And they're like, well, they have like their academy team is playing in challengers, then they have their like 2nd string, and then they have like the kids who are too young to like be signed to anything. And I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, Siesta. And then I started hearing his name everywhere in Korea. Like all the
Mm.
casters, all the coaches, everyone's like, this is the guy. Like he is the one. Like
He just plays
he's
Neon,
gonna
by the way.
mark. Yeah, right. He's gonna mark like the next generation of Korean duelists, like yada yada. And then Genji signs up for 4 years.
Mm.
He gets loaned out, obviously, because he's not going to eventually be able to play on like the big stage anyway. So he gets loaned out to Onside Gaming. I spoke with Mobugi as well, who is the owner of Onside Gaming as well. He leads the team. Used to be the old SPG owner. And like he kind of said similar things as Dongjin, where he's like, well, I mean, I think it is more than that. Like Wolverine, I think is one name that I think anyone who's
Yeah.
followed the Korean scene still knows a little bit. I think Cloudy for me is kind of just like he'll do his job, like he'll get things done, like he's just there for really keeping things together. But it also seemed like Mobugi was very proud of the team. How do I put it? Like really growing together, maturing as a team, and like actually acting as a team rather than just a bunch of talented kids who maybe they just pop off on the day. So we shall see. Now, notably, Mobugi was also very excited to have watched KRX play Triple Duelist, and he thought it was a great idea to tell his players. So, big time. How do you feel about that? Are you excited to
Yeah.
see Onside Gaming for
The less I say, the better here. But I mean, like, I do think generally Korean scouting, like Korean talent scouting, is the best in the world. I think in my mind, these Korean teams
And
have
Turkish.
very deep academies. Well, yeah, but they don't do academy systems in the same way. They just like they like play a lot of ranked. It's different, but like there's institutions in Korea built on this because obviously League
Right.
of Legends is massive. So if Gen.G, a huge multi-million-dollar organization, like if they're gonna pin their hopes on their future on a 14-year-old kid, you know he's good. There's too much money in Valorant, in Korean Valorant specifically. They're not lowly paid players by any means. They invest to win. All of the Korean, all the top ones, Genji T1. So if they're saying he's the guy, I'm gonna believe that he's the guy because there's too much backing. There'll have been too many tests. Like you say, he was in the third string academy. There's a system here where he's going to be well trained by the time he gets to that stage. And you can
On
look at the match history. I don't think they lost since he joined.
The only one they lost was, in fact,
the
that
upper
upper bracket final to
yeah.
Red,
Oh,
right
okay,
before. So everyone was like, uh-oh, like, did it
Mhm.
finally happen? And then they smashed him in the grand finals 3-0.
Yeah.
But
3-0,
that's
didn't
one
touch him.
loss.
Yeah,
Like
that's one loss. Yeah.
he joined the team and the team went insane.
Yeah.
It's like there's a very obvious correlation.
Mm.
I think he will be very good. There's no players who are hyped like this tend to be good, and especially from Korea. I trust the hyping.
With the open circuit next year, does that change any age eligibility levels?
It
to what?
technically depends per region, though, so they haven't specified. But
okay.
it should become lower for most regions. Probably like 17, probably. But like if you have your own country league, it's going to depend on your labor laws, really, right? So, like I would imagine some parts of EMEA might still have stricter laws and things like that. But but yeah, so it's funny because I asked Moby, I was like, so is Siesta like qualified to play for play-ins? Because I'm like pretty sure he technically can't play at champs if you guys do make it, but I'm not sure how that works. And he was like, yeah, we're like not quite sure either. We're like still trying to figure that out. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But so would you say, Komodo, as someone who also followed 555 or now Zipto, like, do you think the reason for hype for Onside and Zipto are kind of similar, where it's like one super gifted player, still great players around him, but like that's the reason to watch? It's like that one guy.
If you
Endoist
put
and
it as a comparison like that, yes. Yeah, I think that's a good kind of way to put it, honestly.
Okay.
I also think that the brand of Valorant that the 555 are going to deliver you is you want to talk about Thai aggression mixed in with a sprinkle of like level-headedness is the way that I would put it. Like, because a lot of other teams from Thailand, it's just like the S key. What is that? There is only W. Like, there's not even an A and a D key, to be fair. These guys aren't that. They are like, they have learnt to step up from that. They were that, but they've improved.
They are. I thought it was actually quite interesting watching that final between Sharper and 555 because I went back and watched it. I didn't get to catch it live, of course, but That's just like the distinct difference between the two teams. Where 555 now Zipto is, like you said, still that Thai aggression, double duelist everywhere. Like we are going to execute and
Yep.
we're going to fight you.
And
And
Sharper is the complete opposite.
yeah, Sharper's like
Yeah.
playing traditional Valorant, and I
Yeah.
was like, wow. And, I mean, and they won, and I was like, well, good for you guys. So personally, I'm
Yep.
kind of more partial to them, also just because I mean, I just want to see PTS on a
Uh,
global stage again.
PTC.
Man, so.
I have
PTC. Sorry.
I have casted Patricius since I started casting. That's how long
Yeah.
it's been. When he was
Yeah.
back in CS, like way back when.
I
Yeah.
still remember his full sense versus Northeption Ascent in the last chance qualifiers for East Asia or Asia in 2021, I think it was, and his KO. Like that's when people in Asia were like, "Holy crap, KO was good on Ascent." And I was just like, this guy's ruining everybody. Like he's the one that ruined the other Korean teams, and then they just beat down
Yeah.
Northeption as well. So
Even sorry to cut in, Kajum as well. I think he's
yes,
been around. He's
Yeah.
been around so long. Like he's a guy who I know has had top level trials. Like he's good enough to play in the league for sure. So he's also a player that I'm excited for. I like this Sharper team. I think for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, I said this before, but I really do feel like all of them are good for one. That starting in fifth sig
Yeah.
is so dangerous because they have a month's worth of VODs to watch, and you
Yeah.
can't really watch anything on them.
So
But by the way, just to quickly interject as well, PTC has played champs technically.
no, he has.
Yeah,
I'm saying I want to see
2021
him
champs,
again.
yeah.
Like I want to see him again.
Yeah.
2021 champs.
2021 champs.
Yeah, because
yeah.
people like Big
That
Time
doesn't
just write
count.
it off as not meaningful. So I want to see him at 2026 champs, and then I can rub it in
Yeah.
his face that it was meaningful.
What a roster that was, by the way. Lammy
It-
Snack, Superbus, PDC, Santa Golf, and John Olsen.
Yeah,
Honors.
crazy.
Different times.
Crazy.
Different
Crazy
times.
roster. So as we wrap this up, then, who do you think goes the highest? Whether it's like all the way into playoffs and like potentially even on a run, whether it's just they get eliminated last. Out of these 4 play-in teams, if you had to pick just one,
I think onside.
Onside.
Because
Okay.
I think the bonus of the league being in Korea is massive. And I think it's not spoken about. I think if this whole
True.
league was held in Thailand, all of the Korean teams would be 2 places worse. For
Mm.
them, they just get to go to the big city. All their family are in the crowd. All their friends are in the crowd. They
True.
can eat the food
It's
that
true.
they like. There's no jet lag. It's perfect. It's set up for them. And they'll already have great facilities here. The other teams are gonna
Yeah.
have to fly to Korea, find a place to like boot camp, maybe live in hotels. It's I sort of hate that that's my main point when I think all the teams are fantastic. And if I want to talk about their Valorant, I think Siesta is very legitimate. I think it's a team that can do a lot. But I think the Korea buff is going to be so nice for them, especially if they don't play against the Korean team. The crowd is going to show up for them in a major way. And we've seen with Varul how much of a difference that can make.
Yeah, I do think it's very, very legitimate to bring this up, especially for the play-ins, because it's like bringing it up now in Pacific, it's like it's still true, but also if you're an org that's been around, like surely you've figured out at least something to minimize that factor for yourselves. But you still have to go back home to like refresh your visa or whatever. Like this is real; it is a very real thing. But for
Yeah.
play-ins, it's like you haven't done this much. Also, it's like it's a temporary change, right? You're not just like eventually getting used to it. So I think it is legitimate, especially for plans. I think it's a very, very big factor. So onside. So basically you're saying it's hard to pick, but that you think is like therefore going to make a
Yeah.
big difference.
I think all the teams will do damage. I think the Thai teams are sharp enough to take scalps as you progress further, but then I feel like that they might hit a bit of a wall when they get sort of anti-stratted. I think onside, I think Zest is a good enough player, and they can sort of help skirt around that. And then you add on top of that everything else of it in Korea. It's a big home field advantage that I think will come into play for them. And I think everyone in Korea wants to see him succeed. So like I
That's
say,
true.
he's being hailed as like the future of Valorant for the country. So I think everyone's gonna want him.
The president's
well.
going to show up. He's going
Yeah.
to show up to watch.
Answer the crowd, all of T1, Genji, KRX Motion, all sat there in rows. with
Faker's
signs
there.
saying, yeah, Faker shows up and bows deeply to Siesta.
Komodo, what about you?
I agree with what Morgan has said about onside, but if you remove location, right?
Sure,
If you
sure.
remove
That's
that
fair.
flying stuff, for me it would be Zipto 555.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I'm glad you say that because I've been mulling this over all day, and my pick would be Sharper. So I'm
Chopper?
glad
Oh.
we picked all three different ones.
Let me
Shout
find
out to
paper thin
Jap.
real fast so we can have all four.
Sorry, what's that? Oh, we
I said,
got.
let me find paper thin.
Japan.
Yeah, shout out to Japanese Valor. We hyped it up the entire episode, and then none of us picked the Japanese Challengers team. But I mean, I think it's also reasons that we mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
right? But for me,
I
yeah,
think
it's.
I think
Oh,
we should revisit this when we see who they're gonna play up against.
oh, I mean, sure.
That will
Obviously,
be
that because
interesting.
like you might
Yeah.
just get knocked down by a bad matchup, or you might get
Yeah.
lucky with a matchup, and obviously it is going to be double a limb, but. The matchup is going to matter, especially for these teams. Like there are
Yeah.
going to be matches that they will prefer or they're more familiar with. But in terms of going highest, I just feel like Sharper. I think Sharper has the most stability out of the four teams, is where I'm at.
Yeah.
But yeah, on a good
Yeah.
day, Onside and Zipto probably peak like higher than anybody else. Maybe even the bottom teams of each group, even in tier one. Like these guys, the peaks are really high. It should be exciting though. I mean, well, let me rephrase that. It should be exciting as long as the tier one teams that get pushed down wake
Go
up.
back to normal.
Yeah, like as because there's a couple of the teams that are about to get pushed down to the play-ins in fifth, sixth that look. I'm not gonna. Well, they look trash now, but more than
Yeah.
anything, they look lost is the biggest thing, and that would just be not fun because it's like, well, now we know you're not playing the best Valorant you can because you're struggling to figure out something else.
Yeah. And I worry that because of the format, as in the fact that the tier two teams have had so long to prepare,
Yeah.
it encourages that if you find out you're going to be fifth, sixth, you should start preparing now for that first playoff game and don't show it. Play something different this week, hide it. But he encourages you to change, is the point, which
Right.
could work great. You can honeymoon period a comp and you can find something that clicks. Like we've seen that. We've seen the experimentation go well. But we've also seen it go terrible. So I worry that if all the teams that are fifth, sixth then decide to go, okay, they have too much of a prep advantage. It's an insane prep
It's
advantage. That
Mm.
then they
yeah.
go, let's nuke everything. Let's start again, and that
I
could just make things even
yeah.
worse.
I guess it's
Yeah.
important to highlight as well that these games are next weekend, so like the 13th and stuff, right? There's no like
Yeah.
week
Like,
break in
immediately
between the
after.
play-ins. It is the next week after the week 5 of group stage.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So for the tier one teams, it's just another week of basically the season continuing on.
yeah.
Now, I will just say before we wrap things up, the counterpoint to that is, of course, the tier two teams have been iced for a long time now, and
That's
This is
true.
true.
the
Yeah.
patch has changed a lot.
They're good
So
freeze.
I am very curious what kind of prep they've been able to have because like you mentioned, you got to imagine that some of those tier one teams that realize they're going to be pushed down probably didn't want to scrim them anymore, right? So
Mm.
there is that factor, but we'll see how it pans out. It should be exciting. Yeah, that's why we wanted to cover it today because doing it like 2 days before the tournament starts would be a little tough. But I'm sure we'll have a better picture next week because we'll have the bracket by then. All right. Well, then, as usual, as we aim to wrap things up, we have our picks of the week, personal picks. Our favorite segment where we get to find out if Komodo has narrowed down his personal.
I
pick
do
to
have just one
or
for
not.
this week.
Oh my
I've been a good
man.
boy. I got one.
Wow. We'll start off. Let's go.
Start off. Shout
Yeah.
outs Sky for stepping on to Team Secret.
Oh,
That's
and-
good.
and,
That's
like,
a good one. Yo, he
That's
was
so-
unreal, bro.
He was good.
Get him a contract, man. He was so. He walked out and he got like a 3K on that first pistol, and I was like, you know the meme where it's like the guy like leans forward in his chair. That was me in the green room. I was like, oh, okay. I wasn't familiar with your game, sir.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I was
shout out Sky.
very happy for that. Yeah.
That's a good one. Good pick. I wish I thought
Okay.
of that. Damn.
Yeah, I wish I had thought of that actually. That's an amazing pick.
Hey,
Shout out
to be
Yeah.
fair, I've been like mates with this guy for very many years. Seen him like
Mm.
playing Valorant at event, all this sort of stuff. Stepping in for an analyst many years ago. Now he gets to play against like Paper X and actually put up numbers.
Yeah.
You got like that's a story, guys.
That
That's
is
great.
that is
That
yeah.
is really good. I think mine was going to be Cess. We spoke about it a little bit already,
Cess.
but I've never seen a sort of turnaround like this. Where even like his numbers have improved. It's not like crazy of a number improvement to the point where you're like, wow, look at the stats. But you look at how he plays, and he has so much confidence. And I love to see it from like an older player who's had a long career, who looks like he's sort of winding down. Like 2025, he was the worst player in the league. He was the lowest
Yeah.
rated player by almost every single metric, and everyone was shocked he wasn't kicked. And like he's bounced back, he's playing with so much confidence, he's swinging, he beat T1. Even like when they interviewed him beforehand, he was like, "Yeah, we got our first ever win in franchising against T1." Like he's like, "I was on that team, and we're gonna do it again." And I was like, "Whoa, calm down, buddy. It's T1." And then he smashed them, and I was like, "Yes, well done." So he won my respect this week for sure.
There you go. I think that's another good one. Mine's gonna be an actual personal one. Shout out to BBL Esports for giving hope to TMV by losing to Pacific in Map 2 and yet still closing out the BO3 to make sure Foot Esports don't make it into the playoffs. And therefore
Oh
TMV
my
can't
God.
lord it over me. I'm sorry, big time, but this is all on TMV.
I watched that Pacific game, and I've never been as angry. There's a lot I can say right now that I won't because we'll get demonetized, and we don't want that. I have a lot of thoughts about that Pacific team. Not a lot of them are very nice, and I think I was just as annoyed. So yeah, I
Well-
respect. I'm with TMV on this one.
Well, shout out to BBO for finally closing it out. So there you go. I'm so glad you brought up Sky, though. I honestly, I almost feel bad because I gotta admit, I almost kind of forgot that he had played because that
Yeah,
matchup
same.
we didn't expect much from that match, but he did.
Yeah.
He did way more than his job. So great to see. Of course, we have our last week of the groups coming up, and like we mentioned in the beginning, it actually matters literally until, in fact, the last day almost matters the most,
Yeah,
no matter
that's-
what the
yeah.
previous results are. So make sure you tune into all the matches. Make sure you remember that this week it's just Friday, Saturday, Sunday, since we don't have a Super Week matches for this last week. And then we'll get to see what the brackets are for play-ins, who gets closer to chance for going to the playoffs, and whatnot. Thank you so much for listening. Of course, if you want to listen to us in audio form only on the move, you can find us on Spotify, or if that's just a better platform for you, that's where you can find us. If not, you can make sure you subscribe right here, and you'll be able to find us. In fact, you should be able to find us on all three of our channels because we just kind of have them linked anyway. So
It's
make sure you
communal.
subscribe to all three on our screens as well. Thanks for listening, everybody, to Perfect Read, and we will be back next week.